We're going to do expressions with absolute value. And absolute value means you're going to get a positive number if it's not already positive from inside absolute values, which we use the straight line symbols. So we're going to solve this. We're going to treat it like parentheses, or in this case, we're going to substitute. So we're going to put a 4 in for m. So 4 goes right here for m. We have absolute value minus 14. So inside the absolute value, we're going to do it like parentheses, and so that becomes a 10. Since it's already positive, the answer stays as a 10. So outside the absolute values, it's 10, and now we're going to subtract 14, so we end up with the answer of a negative 4. So let's go over here and do this problem where we're going to do the same thing. We're going to substitute where we see x. In this case, we have a 2, so I'm going to put substitute. Now I have my absolute value sign, so I'm going to work inside first. So this part is a negative 8, and I'm going to add it to a 3. So I get a negative 5. Now, the inside part of an absolute value becomes positive. Since it's not positive, it becomes positive. So now it's a positive 5, but we still have this negative sign out here to deal with. And now with that negative sign, we can then add it to 23, and we would get our answer of 18. So when we're doing this problem, we want to solve the equation. Our problem is absolute value. You actually have two answers because there's two distances from 0. So we're going to write this exactly like you see it without the absolute value sign. And then you're going to write a second equation where on the right side of the equal sign we change it to its opposite sign. It becomes a negative 17. Now we solve this equation, so minus 5, so f equals 12 in this case. And then if we do a minus 5 and a minus 5 over here, we get f equals a negative 22. Basically, both of these answers will work. Both of them will work for this problem because there's two distances. That's what absolute value is. So let's look at this next one right here. My first equation is always exactly what we see without the absolute value signs. The second equation is changing only the number on the other side of the equal sign to its opposite. So now it becomes a positive 3. It was a negative 3, and then I solve. So I add 1 to both sides. So my answer for this one will be a negative 2. And I add 1 to both sides, and this answer would be a 4. And if you were actually to plug this number into the equation, a negative 2, let's just try it once just to show. This becomes a negative 3 absolute value, but we change absolute values into positive, so this is a 3 equals a negative 3. That does not work, so this is not a solution. So we put a 4 in, we get a 3, and it also doesn't work. So neither one of these are solutions to this problem. Basically, absolute values cannot become negative. So there's no answer or no solution for this particular problem. No solution. So let's look at these others and see if we have solutions. So it's a positive number that we're getting, so we will get a solution. But we're going to write our two equations. Y plus 2 equals 4. That's my first one. And then the second equation is just changing the sign of the number right of the equal sign. Then we solve. So y equals 2. That's one answer. And if I subtract 2, I get y equals a negative 6. And if I put these answers in just to check it, substitute, I will get 4, and it's a true statement, so that checks. And if I put the negative 6 in, I get a negative 4, but the absolute values changes it to a 4, so it also checks. So now let's do this last problem. So my first equation is going to be 3n minus 4 equals negative 1. Once again, you can tell we have to find an absolute value that's going to get us a negative 1, and there is no such thing. So this automatically is a no solution. So when absolute value is equal a negative number, there's not going to be any answer. To write an absolute value equation, which is probably the toughest part, is really just two steps. Step 1 is we want to see the middle between 11 and 19. That means we want to know the middle point. So if I count over, I get 15 as my middle point. Once we establish our middle point, it's a positive, so we're going to take its opposite. We're going to take its opposite, so it's a positive 15, so I'm going to make it a negative 15 because I'm taking the absolute value of it. And it's going to equal the distance. So I counted over 1, 2, 3, 4 spots, so it will equal a 4. Let's do that again down here. So we need to find the distance between 17 and 27, the middle point of it. So 18 and 26 and 19 and 25 and 20 and 24 and 21 and 23. So our middle point's 22. It's a positive, so I'm going to go the opposite and absolute value. And it's going to equal those distances, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I've created my equation based off the fact that this number is the distance, or the midpoint number, and this is the distance from that midpoint. And that's absolute value because it's a distance from 0. And in this case, we create a new 0, which is the negative 22.